Today, we're going to be talking about one of the craziest things to happen in modern history. Machine Gun Kelly dyed his hair pink. No, actually, we're talking about Trump and this whole election cycle. We're playing Entropia Universe right now, for those of you who are wondering, but I don't know if that's why you're going to be here for this video, so I figured I'd start off with the topic. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the U.S. presidential elections because honestly, this is probably one of the craziest elections that we've had in our lifetime. And it's not over yet. The president still hasn't been elected. There's still some craziness that could happen. Hopefully it won't, but there still is craziness that could happen. Now, for those of you wondering, this game, you're using real money to play the game. Every shot that I take costs money. I'm spending about $10 or 100 PEDs on this hunt. So we're going to see where that ends up. But back to the thing. So Trump was elected president. He still has to be voted in by the Electoral College. For them not to vote him in would be anarchy. It would be complete chaos. He also has to not get charged with any crimes in New York, or sorry, he has to be sort of just let go for the crimes that he committed in New York, right? They've got to declare that he's not going to go to jail. That's going to happen in November, and then he's going to get inaugurated. Yeah, but it's man, this like just going through what has happened already, it is mind blowing. You have had multiple assassination attempts on a candidate. One assassination attempt was possibly by a state actor. You have another candidate that withdrew from the race. You have characters like Joe Rogan, a dude who's big into hallucinogens, weed, all sorts of crazy stuff, and a comedian essentially dictating the election or helping to push the election to one side. You've got a tech billionaire who owns a rocket company responsible for rockets landing themselves. He's born in South Africa. He lives in the US right now. He also owns an electric car company, and he's very progressive, or at least he used to be. He switched to the Republican side, spent over $100 million and basically bought control of a social media site, which helped him sort of pull the power to one side of the election, along with a whole host of other crazy things. It's one of those things that I don't think it's if we see this again in our lifetimes, it's going to be crazy. We're gonna be hoping it doesn't happen, but yeah, it's welcome to 2024. Not as crazy as 2020 still, but a little crazy. Things got a little off the rails, right? We're still in that Harambe universe, right? We haven't gone back to the good old I don't know, the good old days when the news was just about, presidents refusing to shake hands rather than people calling each other fascists, Nazis, all of that. So yeah, the election happened. I did not get the result I was looking for, but that happens, right? Like half the country split, right? And well, right now, actually, it's almost 50-50. If you look at the popular vote, right, it's like 71 million people voted Dem, 73 voted Republican. Still being counted in California. It's probably going to be close. It's probably going to be within like 3 to 1 million votes. So it's almost a 50-50 split. Despite what people are saying, election days, I'm not 100% sure why, but it takes some of these states a while to be counting their votes. So California is still counting. California is still counting. And as that comes in, you're probably going to get maybe 1 million more votes for Harris and I don't know, a couple 100,000 for Trump. Maybe more than that. But basically, it is over. Trump's been voted in, or he's been voted in by the people, not the Electoral College, which that, again, if that happens, expect markets to crash, revolutions to happen. It would be wrong, right? Even though it's not my person that they're voting for, it would be wrong for them to try and undo the democratic vote unless there was a really, really damn good reason. And when I say good reason, it needs to be like 3 reasons. There's not many reasons that could call for it. Anyways, that'll happen. Wasn't the person I wanted. I honestly thought it was going to go down, but I mean, I do live in a bubble, right? Like I've seen Trump doing these podcasts. I listened to the Joe Rogan Experience when Trump was on. I listened to Elon talking. I did pay attention to all that, but it didn't feel like it was enough to me because it just didn't. I mean, I live in a blue state, Massachusetts, probably the bluest state. So everybody there is pulling for Kamala. They're pulling for the Democrats. I'm on Reddit all the time, Democrat. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was in a bit of an echo chamber. I saw Twitter, like I did use Twitter. I used to use Twitter a lot. I deleted it or X, whatever you want to call it. I deleted it not because of politics, but because I kept getting like it was just crazy stuff I was seeing for a while. It seems like it's actually gotten better, to be honest, but it was just like I was seeing dead. I was getting videos of people killing each other all the time, and in my stupid brain, I see, I see there's a gunfight in the middle of some crazy country. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what, Cyril, we got to tune into this one because what if you end up in this situation? And at the end of the video, the only thing I learned from it is don't get shot. But that's not news to me. But like I just kept watching it. It was bringing me into this like bad place. So I just decided to delete X. Right? It wasn't political. Now I'm like I deleted it again after the elections. I installed it just to watch the elections, and I deleted it after that. I'm like, did I delete it for political reasons? I don't know because I don't want to just put myself in an echo chamber. Obviously people are unhappy with the Democrats. I'm not sure if it's that they're unhappy with the Democrats or unhappy with the government. That's one of the things I'm struggling to figure out right now. Like looking at the numbers, everything's good, right? Like I'm not working right now. I didn't get fired or anything like that. I left to spend time with my family. And the fact that I can do that shows that for me, the economy, the world, everything's been going pretty good. I spent a couple months in Japan. I've been enjoying life. I know people are talking about the prices of gas and everything like that, but that feels like something that always happens, right? The markets keep going up. My net worth keeps going up with it. Trump got elected. That's for my net worth, that's really good, like, really, really good, like, we're talking, you know, uh, the thing is, it's hard to say, but, like, I don't wanna there's some people, if I give a number, they'll feel like it's bragging, but then to other people, if I don't give a number, it doesn't have a real impact on them, but, well, let's just say, like, I'm not an I don't know, I'm not a billionaire, I'm not, like, worth 8 figures or anything like that, but I've got a decent chunk of change in the bank account, and when the markets go up, what is it like 10 I mean, I think my portfolio since Trump got elected is up like 10 to 15% because I had some very specific investments, and that's, for me, that's more than I'll earn, and that's more than I would have earned in 3, 4 months of working. Um, and I got paid a pretty good salary, so you can do with what you will, but it was a good amount of money, right? So, like, from a financial standpoint, this has been very lucrative for me. So, that helps pad the pocket. I guess that helps pad the blow, right? But at the same time, like, to me, before with Biden, everything felt good. I'd hear rumblings, I see that people are upset. I've gone around the country, I've seen there are problems in cities. I was in New Orleans a while ago, and it did feel unsafe, right? Like, I was in the good area of New Orleans, and it still felt unsafe, right? Like, I didn't go out at night with my kids. You shouldn't bring kids I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing kids to New Orleans, but you shouldn't bring them out to Bourbon Street at night or probably even during the day, if we're being honest, right? Like, that's not a maybe in the morning, but not after, like, 2 PM. It's not a place you should be taking your kids, basically, Bourbon Street or anything like that, but when I went out on my own to go grab a soda or beer or whatever, it did not feel safe. It didn't feel safe. Like, hands down, didn't feel safe. But before, it didn't feel bad, but it didn't feel like the safest city anyways. Sorry, we had a little mic issue there. Hopefully, everything's running good now, but yeah, so it didn't feel safe, right? I went to some other cities, right? Like, I went through Memphis. I've been through, West Virginia. I've been through some of these states where things did feel a little sketchy, but, in West Virginia, I went to Morgantown, and it felt pretty good. Everything felt new. It seemed like the economy was doing good there. A lot of the repressed areas were areas that I've been before, and they always felt repressed, right? Like, you go to Nebraska, it you know, under Bush, under Obama, under whoever, it's never felt like it's never had the same feel of this, like, prosperous area. It's felt like sort of people there are more middle class. Like they're doing okay. They're getting by. They're having a good to me it seems like these are people who actually enjoy being like, salt of the earth type people. That's not my thing, but if that's your thing, that's awesome, right? Like it always felt like that. So to me, it just felt like everything was going good, but obviously people are upset about something. It's hard to tell if people are upset because they're riled up about the news or what they're seeing, right? Like I tend to, for better or worse, I've turned away from the news in general because what I find is, yeah, you go to the left side, they're upset about something. You go to the right side, they're upset about something else. And no matter what, like every time I turn on the news, there's something that they're trying to get me upset about. And it's like, overall, I don't think the world's in that bad of a place. I mean, the economy is doing better. People are living longer. Violence is going down. There's a brief bump up in 2020, but it's still most cities, actually almost all cities, it's nowhere near where it used to be in the 1990s or the 1980s. The environment, there's things that are toxic, right? But that's always been the case. It's getting better and better. Lead isn't in the air. We're not eating off of arsenic plates. It's a good time to be alive. You've got cell phones, you've got microphones, you got computers. You can communicate with people all over the world instantly, and food gets to us so quickly. Like we have an obesity problem, right? Like our bodies evolved to fight starvation, make sure that we didn't just die out there of not getting enough food, and now we've got problems with people having too much. That's ooh, got a little bit of that there. Let's pick that thing up. That's a good thing in my opinion, right? Like that's all positive, and it seems like we're getting better and better. Like you know, it seems like things are going good. Like birth rates are down. I think that is worrisome. Not because I think the population needs to hit 20 billion or whatever it is. Like I like high density cities. I was in Tokyo. I loved it, but that doesn't mean that you know, we need more people to make more of those cities happen. Um, yeah, I mean, to me, it felt like everything was going good, but obviously there are complaints. It's hard for me to know because I know that the media is, getting people into a frenzy about different things. From what I've seen, I haven't run. Yeah, I've seen immigrants, but I haven't run into hordes of illegal immigrants. I've been down to Texas. I've been near the border. I haven't seen any of these roving herds, right? Like I've been to some sketchy borders, right? Like uh, war zones and stuff, and those you can see stuff. You see the people, you can feel the effects. In Texas, it didn't feel like that to me. I'm not saying I wasn't on a border town. I'm not saying that my experience is everyone's experience, but to me, it didn't seem too crazy. I don't know. But the thing is, I'm curious if this is. I'm curious what other people's experiences are. Are you having these experiences? Are you running into herds or hordes of illegal immigrants running around your city? What city is it? Where do I have to look for this? Like, Colorado, everybody was talking about the Venezuelan gangs, right? I knew someone down there. I messaged them and they just said like, it's there's gangs that's everywhere in the US. It's nothing, they're not getting shot at. The city hasn't gone to SH. The city's not gone to shit. Like everything's sort of normal. Um, Even the opioid epidemic, I think less people are overdosing. It might be because fentanyl's gotten like there's a new fentanyl and that's making there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, right? But like it seems like things are getting better. Even if you look at like I don't know why climate change has to be political, right? Like everybody talks about climate change, like does it exist? Doesn't exist? I think the rest of the world agrees it exists, except for America. Whatever. We're going to assume that this isn't some sort of, if you watch Thank You for Smoking, we're going to assume that this isn't going on, right? Let's say climate change isn't real. Why don't we want our cities to smell better, right? Like, if you got to go into a bathroom that smells good or a bathroom that smells like farts, which do you pick? So it's good to see electric vehicles and clean air because I'd rather just sniff the clean air. I mean, like I've been to places where they have air that's actually really, really bad, right? Like you get done with a day, you have to sneeze and black shit comes out. Like literally, I'm not even joking, right? Like I've gone down to um, if it's not legal, I've in theory gone down here in a video game, whatever. I've gone down to Cuba, right? the cars there are from the 1950s. The amount of pollution that they put out, you smell it in the air. It has that old car smell, but it is everywhere. It's inescapable. I remember back in the day when everybody used to smoke, your clothes would smell like smoke. And, there's just soot everywhere in some of these places. In the US, we don't have that, right? And like, if we can take it to the next level where we don't have to breathe in car exhaust, isn't that good? Like, everybody talks about fresh mountain air, right? That's one of the things like everybody's like, oh, that fresh mountain air, that fresh sea breeze. Why is it a bad thing if we could get that? And even if you don't believe in climate change, cleaning up the environment is going to get more people that breathe. So I don't know why that's such an issue, right? Like, but it seems like even there, no matter what laws are passed or anything like that, it's getting cheaper and cheaper to go the cleaner route. So it doesn't seem like any policy is going to stop that. I mean, if you want to go build, if you want to go burn coal, you can, but I don't, I don't think the rest of the world is going to join you in that. Maybe China's producing a lot of coal power plants, but they're also producing a lot of other stuff that's renewable. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. I don't quite understand where people's minds are. I can understand the Senate. I can understand the House. If you're unhappy, like, fine. But Trump, man, that is a crazy one to me. I mean, I'm interested to see what he does. It's going to be a more exciting 4 years. I give you that. There's more to talk about. It's more fun, essentially, but it's interesting. It was not something I saw. I'm I'm in a bubble, but yeah, I don't know. I've had friends that are like, I've traveled a lot, so I know a lot of people internationally. And the first thing they're like, "Why?" And no, I had no answer. They're just asking me. They're like, Why did he win? Why did people vote for Trump?" And I couldn't tell them why. Um, Usually I can. I could say, well, the economy, like, there's people that are out of work, but is it? I didn't think it was that many people. There's some people who just naturally vote Republican. Uh, Fair enough. I mean, there's people who naturally vote Democrat. Like, let's be honest here, right? Like, there are people that if Trump took the exact same policies, but he was blue, Democrat, they wouldn't vote for him and they'd call him a fascist on the Republican side. And there's people on the Democratic side who, again, exact same person, just switches over, same policies, everything, Musk and all them switch with him. These people on the blue side who are calling him a fascist now would be calling him a savior. That's just how it works, right? Like, some people pick a sports team and they're going to stick with it for the rest of their lives. And I think people have done that with politics. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing because, look, I don't think Trump's Hitler, but, like, that's how you could vote for Hitler. Just because you picked a color and you're going to vote that color no matter what. Um, Again, I'm using that analogy because I think it's a good analogy. I do not think that Trump is literally Hitler. I haven't he was already president. He didn't murder a bunch of well, he didn't murder a bunch of people. Like, he had some crazy comments and he said some crazy stuff, but I, I don't Hitler went a little bit farther than that if we're being honest, right? So yeah, it's just one of those things that blows my mind. I have no explanation for it, and I know a lot of people watching this are probably more red leaning than me, or they're at least from a red state. So I'd be very curious to hear their take on this, right? Like, I'd be curious to hear why. Um, I mean, I don't know. Like, look, there's things on the Democratic side that I don't like. We could go into those, I guess. We've still got some time. We can go into those. Like, we can do an old school serial overdrive video. Hopefully the mic's holding up. I'm playing around with it a bit. We're gonna get this down. But look, like, the Democrats, there's certain issues that they keep picking on that I just don't know why. Illegal immigration is another one. Like, man, I understand, right? Like, you know, there's two extremes to it, right? There's an open border, and then there's having guards on the border shooting anyone who tries to cross it. You don't want to go to either one of those, right? It feels like we don't quite have an open border, but it feels like there's a lot of people using this, like, loophole to get in, and it seems like we're spending money on them, and it seems like that's like people are claiming political asylum. I understand why it's hard to prove otherwise, but there should probably be some requirements for documentation. It should be one of those things like, give them a computer, give them like not like a laptop, but like, put them in a library type scenario where they can go and type some stuff out and figure their stuff out if they just ran across the border. Because, I mean, I don't think they would, but like maybe you don't have time to get all your documents together, dot your P's and your Q's if you're running in a truly like political asylum type scenario. So give them some time to prove it. Give them some time to find identity documents and all that. But I don't know if we should be paying for them to be anywhere. Maybe have some people help them out. But there should with that loophole. It shouldn't be that they just get to exist in the country, um, because otherwise people take advantage of it. Unfortunately, it would be great if we could just trust everybody that's came through and they're genuinely scared about something. They genuinely think they need help, but that's not the case. So I think, yeah, they probably should have taken a tougher stance on that. I don't think we need to deport every illegal immigrant because, yeah, I mean, there's extremes on both sides. It costs a lot of money to do that. You just want to do enough that it's something that's untenable to most people, and maybe give some more good options for immigration. I like the point system. I like the fact that there's these systems out there where people can just, look through this thing and they can say, well, I have a degree. I've worked for 10 years. I've done this, that, and the other thing. So I've got 100 points. And if I've got over 95 points, I might qualify for a visa or green card. And, I like giving those people green cards, right? Like, honestly, I think Trump said this too, but it's like, if you got a PhD, if you've got a skill that we need, welcome. That's how, that should be the way it is, right? Like that should definitely be a thing. And I think we've made it very hard for some of those people. So, like, it's illegal immigration, not really for it. Pro immigration through legal routes. And I think there's a lot of cool things that could come from that. I mean, personally, I love cities that are more melting pot than not. Like I spent a lot of time in Japan recently, like I was saying, and after a while, one of the things that gets to you is everywhere everything's Japanese, which is awesome as a tourist. But when you're going on a month and a half there and you just want a good burger, you just want to, yeah, you want to eat some good Italian food. It can be hard to find. Um, and as a tourist, that's I don't care, right? Like I'm getting some amazing sushi that in the U.S. would be costing me a ton, and it's costing me less than $1 per plate, right? Like, you kidding me? Like I'd be insane to go for pizza, but actually, the pizza there is pretty good. I can't lie. Like their food's pretty good. Their food's pretty good. It was a bad example. It was a bad example, but um, yeah, like it'd be it's nice to have a bit of a melting pot, right? Like when I come back to the U.S., it's good to have Japanese places that I can go to eat. It's cool. I like it. So yeah, like I'm all for that. I'm all for that, right? Melting pot. Big, big thumbs up from Serial Overdrive. If you don't want a melting pot, I've been to cities where it's not a melting pot, like I've been to some of these rural cities. I remember I went to this rural city, right? Like I wasn't a city, it was a town. You go into the town, everything's just named what it is. Because there was only like one of everything. It was just like, there's a McDonald's, right? But it was like restaurant. It was named restaurant, like convenience store is just called the convenience store. The post offices are always called post offices, right? But like gas station was just called the gas station, and there was no like no flair to anything. It was all just middle America stuff, and that was like another world to me. But I get bored there. I get bored in something like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was one of those things that threw me off, and the other thing is like I don't know some of the transgender stuff, I do see the points on the other side. Now, look, ooh, that was a pretty good hit, 15 PDs. This is one that can get you in like some hot water, so I'll dive in, right? Maybe I'm getting cooked like a lobster here as I go. But yeah, some of the stuff where they're saying like, a male can transition to female and be able to fight other females in MMA or boxing or whatever you want. That feels a little weird to me because it's like if steroids aren't allowed, is it you're getting a natural boost from your like that one felt weird to me. And then like some of the stuff where it's like they're able to promote it in schools and all that. It should be one of those things where a person shouldn't be made to feel bad about any choice that they make that is a personal choice that doesn't affect other people. That's where I stand with that. It goes for anything in this world, right? Like if you make a choice and your choice has no effect, no possible ramifications on anybody else, you should be able to 100% enjoy your choice. And I 100% support that, right? Like whatever you want to do, like that. There's this dude in France that like made himself look like an alien. If you're of sound mind and well, I don't know how sound mind, like even though that's judgmental, I shouldn't do that. If you're of sound mind and you're happy with your choice, I'm all for it. Okay. But one of the problems I see is when you have the promotion, let's convert some more ammo. When you have the promotion of either side, either pick, right? Either anti or pro, what happens is, especially in young people, right? Like this is part of the thing that I think that 11 PDs, we're getting some good hits here, so we're gonna keep going. This is part of the thing, like I think either pro or against, especially with kids, they look to their teachers. I used to look to my teachers as these people who knew everything, right? Like they were all powerful, all knowing. And then, one of my teachers like would get into something that actually, because I've got a bit of ADHD, right? So like sometimes I'll get like super obsessed with a topic and I'll just like dive into it, super research it. So I remember once like I researched space, like I was big on space. What kid isn't, right? Like I had the internet, so I knew all this stuff. I'm like, it'll take this long to get a probe to Pluto, this long to Mars, this long to that. And I remember like in the middle of science class, this teacher goes like, she's like, so she's talking about man walking on the moon, and she's like, and pretty soon we're gonna have a person on Mars. I'm like, I don't think so, right? But I knew better. I knew better than to say anything, right? So I'm just sitting there, and then she's like, it only takes humans like 2 months to get to Mars. And in my head, I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. I'm trying to contain myself though. And she's like, and in 3 years you can get to Pluto. So who knows? By the time you kids are dead, there might be. And I'm at that point, I'm like, there's you can't because I don't know. I just it like overloaded my brain, and I'm like, I raised my hand. I was respectful about it, but I said like, you can't like humans can't go to Pluto in 3 years. That'd be an insane leap in technology. We just do not have that. Like, it's not possible right now. And she's like, "No, you're wrong, Serial." And I'm like, "I'm not wrong." And I'm like, and she's like, "No, you're wrong." And I said, "No, I'm not wrong. Like, we cannot get to Pluto in 3 years. Period." Like, I'm just like, in my brain, I'm like, "Nope, I know the facts. I'm right. She's gonna look it up. She's gonna see it. I got detention." And I remember like I got detention, and my dad like I tell my dad what I got it for, and he's like, "You didn't get it for that." I'm like, "No, I got it for that." He's like, "You didn't get it for that." I'm like, "No, I got it because." He's like, Serial, you didn't get it for that. So then he has to call up the teacher, right? So he dials the phone. He's like fuming at me. He's super pissed because he thinks that I've done something. I'm just like trying to tell him a lie, trying to tell him that the teacher gave me detention because I said humans can't get to Pluto in 3 years. And he's like, you didn't get it for that. Like, and then I hear him on the phone, and he's talking to the teacher. I'm like, so what do you get detention for? And the teacher's, I don't know what the teacher says, but then I hear him go, yeah, you're wrong on that. Humans couldn't get to Pluto in 3 years. It would take at least decades. And then they talk a little bit more. He hangs up the phone and he's like, "You were right. Just I don't know." Like it was just like he's just like, yeah. You're like, there's nothing I can do about the tension, but like you're not in trouble because she just doesn't want to agree with anyone. This was high school, but yeah, and kids, teenagers are a little bit more rebellious, right? But at that point, it's like at that point, I was sort of like, okay, teachers can be idiots. But up until that point, I thought teachers knew everything. I thought they were just these, all powerful beings that had learned everything in college and they knew their topics and they were experts in this. This was a science teacher that thought we could get to Pluto in, like 10 years. And then, shortly after, I had another English teacher that in the middle of class, they were talking about sailboats. And she's like, why didn't they just use a plane? It's like, well, ma'am, 1800s. And she's like, yeah, why didn't they use a plane? All right, whatever. At that point, I was through with it. But you see what I'm saying, right? Like at some point, that seal breaks and you realize teachers can be dumbasses too, just like people. But if if they go one way or the other before you have that realization, as a kid, that can really affect you. And I think they should be saying like, anyone can pick whatever they want as long as it's not harming anyone. That's good. But obviously, they can also come off as like pro drug and stuff. But I don't know when they celebrate it. I think celebrate's the wrong word. I don't like that word because then it feels like one's being celebrated and one isn't, which isn't like it. It's not bad in the sense of like I have no problem with celebrating birthdays because everybody gets one, right? But if you're celebrating one side and not celebrating the other, it pushes kids to think that one thing's good and one thing isn't as good because one's celebrated and one isn't. So you can get people that falsely lean one way and maybe they're completely okay with that. Nothing ever occurs, right? Like maybe they lean that way and that's it. But you can convince people of things that they later find out not to be true. And when it comes to something like, sexuality, transitioning, anything like that, I think it can lead to some hardships later in life for some of these people because they discover that they were leaning one way, but they didn't really want to lean that way. They were just leaning it because people that they idolized were doing that. And that's true of everything, right? Rock stars doing drugs, rock stars drinking. That's part of the reason that I was into it when I was a kid, right? Like there, we pick our idols and we're very bad at picking our idols, but for what we can control, I think we should do our part to try and just be neutral there. That's my take on it. And I think some of the stuff where they want to celebrate in schools and all that, I don't think that's the right approach. I don't think there should be pride celebrations in school or I don't know. On the White House, that's like a harder one, but like I just don't see it because the thing is like at this point too, like these kids haven't they they don't know the history behind this stuff, and a lot of the time when they're celebrating it, they're too young to understand. When oh, there we go, nice hit there. We got what is that? 60 PED global, not too bad, not too bad. But a lot of these kids, here's the thing, like they don't. They're, if you sit down with a fully formed adult and you explain to them why you're celebrating, it makes sense, right? You can say in the past these people were in an extremely bad position. Now they're not, and they want to celebrate the fact that they are and sort of pay homage to the people who came before and helped get there. That makes sense. I 100% understand that, 100% support it. It's not hurting anybody. But I think kids can't sit down and realize that. So I think there's an age where it is a bit inappropriate. And there's little things like that that I can see why people would not like the Democrat stance on it. But when I look at the other things, like the economic policies, taxing people who are wealthy, I'd be one of the people taxed, by the way, taxing people more who are wealthier, right? Like putting some more regulations on business, leaning into green energy. Like I like all those things because I think that is going to lead to a better overall world. I've been to countries where there's very little regulation, countries, um, I've been to a few that shortly after I visit one, shortly after I visited, there were full on, riots in the street, revolutions, changing of the guard, everything. Um, and when I went, the regulations were starting to fall. It's a very liberating experience. You feel very free, but at the same time, it is very scary because when things start to go, you start to realize that it is dangerous, like it is dangerous to be out. And I've been to cities that are very socialized. And the thing there, it's like this in Japan. I, I was jet lagged. I woke up at 4 a.m. I just went out into the street, walked down the street a bit, went to a vending machine, got myself a iced coffee because I make bad decisions and didn't want to try and sleep through the jet lag. And never felt unsafe, like my kids, like we'd be walking out through the city, midnight, 2 a.m., whatever. and it was fine. Like, there were no issues, there was no fear. It's very hard to do that in the US. Even I've been to Times Square and at 1 AM, it's even just Times Square, 1 AM with your kids, like, it doesn't quite feel safe. It doesn't feel too bad, right? Like, it doesn't I'm not saying it's like, "Ooh," like, I'm not clutching my watch or whatever I don't know, pearls, like, I'm not scared, but at the same time, it's like you dial your senses up a little bit, right? And I mean, that's the thing too. Americans, like, if you live in a city, like, you get to be very, very attuned to that. Like, you can sort of tell who's off, who isn't. It's interesting because again, my friends, like, international friends don't always have that skill, and I find that very interesting because I remember, I forget where it was. I was in this crowd, right? And all of a sudden, like, this guy pulls out a gun. And I just, grab my friend and just pull him behind him. Like, he's got a gun. He's got a, and, I was like, little panic because just random dude pulls out a gun in a crowd. My friend like looks around and he's like, where? I'm like, just over there. Like, he's just got it like nonchalantly. This guy like sitting there, just sitting on his lap. And my friend looks and he's like, oh no, he's got his badge out on the table. But nobody else in the mall even noticed. Like, nobody flinched. To me, I was like, oh my God, there's gonna be a this is it. Like, man, I'm ready to bolt. Um, and that was interesting to me because that was a very, very interesting reaction to a gun being in a place that probably like you wouldn't expect it. And I've had it in the U.S. where I'll see, I used to live in a let's see, without doxing myself, I used to live in a very dangerous city near a very dangerous area where there were, murders happening quite often, quite often. It wouldn't be crazy on a Friday night for there to be gunfire. Not every night, but Friday, Saturday, people getting a little crazy with it. Um, and there are things that you look for, right? Like the baggy shirts, the baggy pants, a little bit of like a hand in a certain location, like sort of ready to go. Like, I don't know. There's certain things that like you'd see just like a little bit of like a bump where the shirt would fall or something like that, and you'd be like, okay, that guy's got something. Like, let's just maybe we don't want to be here. It's a skill that I've got, but it's a skill that I think it's nice not to need. Because you feel more relaxed, right? Like, I've been like again when I was living in this area, I remember like walking back. Again, I'm not the best decision maker. Go to a party or whatever, and your bar would be walking back late, and you clock someone following you across the street. They cross the street, and all of a sudden you've got to make a decision, right? Do you keep up pace? Do you run? Usually, what you do is you turn a corner and then take off. That's what I'd always do, right? Turn a corner, take off, turn another corner, back on your route. Usually, the person wouldn't, yeah, if they're following you, because a few times they were, they definitely were, like, you wouldn't quite lose them, and you'd realize there's someone like chasing, not like full on like running, but sort of trying to tail you quicker. But yeah, it's just like it's nice not to have to always be aware of that. So yeah, I mean, when I look at that, I'm just like, man, like if we can do what some of these other governments do, you tax me a little bit more and I feel a little bit safer, and it is a little bit safer. I'm all for that because it's great to have a nice big house and a nice big area and your own little kingdom, but it's really good to be able to exit that kingdom that you've created and feel secure. Because maybe your kingdom's a little smaller, but the surrounding area is a little bit nicer, and I think that's worth it to me. But yeah, I don't know. And I guess green energy is a big one, right? Like I just said, I've got kids, and I always go by the adage, even when I'm in like an Airbnb, right? Like I like to leave things better than I found them. So sometimes it'll just be like a little scuff mark or something like that. That I'll just be like, all right, let's just got a little bit of time in the morning, drinking my coffee, might just scratch that off. It's not you haven't done anything crazy, right? Like you're no saint here. You're not. building another room or well, now that would be crazy. That's what we're gonna do for my million subscriber video if I get there. We're gonna buy it. I'm gonna go to an Airbnb and I'm gonna add a room onto it and then see what happens. To be honest, most of those things are run by cleaners, so there'd probably be nothing. It would just be like 3 years later, some guy would like go to his Airbnb and be like, "What the fuck? This is 4 bedrooms." I don't remember, but no, like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm trying to do this video and explain my thoughts. I don't know how good I'm doing of it. There's no animosity that I hold towards people that voted one way or the other. It's just it'd be good to understand because I think there's something for me to learn from this. Not not personally, like I'm not running for a political office. I don't have any say in it. I'm not a multi-billionaire donor or anything like that. There's no effect that I have on it, but it'd be good to know where people are coming from. But hey, maybe the far left is right and 71 million people decide to vote for Hitler. They spelled the name wrong. I really do wonder how many people actually vote for Hitler because for those who don't know, like you can write in names on the U.S. ballot, so you can just write anyone. Like there's people who vote for Taylor Swift and just it's their way of protesting, I guess. How many people actually vote for Hitler? Anyways, that's all I've got for today. That's U.S. politics, election talk, and that is some Entropia Universe gameplay. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Let's total up the loot as always. Like I said, we went out with 100 PEDs. We went hunting for quite some time because I did have to, you do a little bit of a re. Well, you can convert shrapnel into ammo and then you can use it again. So I had to do that. Where is my totaler? Here we go. Let's equip that. Let's not teleport. Let's use this. Here we go. Trade terminal. And let's drop our loot in and see where we stand. So we got 131 PEDs here, along with 88.9 PEDs. So let's say 140 PEDs. So far, 40 PEDs of profit. On the amplifier, we've lost 37, I believe, PEDs. Yeah, let's say 37. So that's going to bring that 130, 140 profit down to 3 PEDs profit. When you count in armor decay and everything like that, honestly, this was a break even run. But we did get some skills. We had some fun. And I got to vent to someone I don't have a psychiatrist. I've never done any of that, I guess. A true boomer there. But I get to vent to someone. You all are my psychiatrist, and YouTube pays me for talking. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all are having a great day. Until next time, peace.